It's now 2026, and in interior design and architecture, I feel there's a trend towards Pueblo style architecture, honestly, a trend towards craftsmanship, moody, a little bit darker, and a feeling of home that it moves away from the white boxes, moves away from the white paint on the walls and the white kitchens, and towards something that's maybe a little bit more timeless. And so I wanted to go through Pueblo style architecture and interior design in this video and talk about the things that you should consider before you buy a Pueblo style home. What are some of the cons of owning and living in a Pueblo style home? What are the negatives? The things to consider. So first of all, let's talk about Pueblo style. Let's look at some inspiration with these overlays. Think adobe, flat roofs, stucco walls in browns, reds. Think sotillo tile floors, brick flooring with talavera or Mexican tile inlays throughout them. The mosaic tiles, hopefully an overlay will help you there. Think warmth, kiva fireplace, vigas and latillas above, tongue and groove ceilings, barrel ceilings with the vigas protruding out of the stucco at the front of the house. Often I see rounded edges, bull-nosed corners in the stucco and in the drywall or plaster inside the house. Plaster is another one that I think really, goes really well with Pueblo style architecture. Organic earth materials, wood cabinetry, and the modern versions have more oak flooring, bigger windows, and of course don't forget tin light fixtures that really just set the stage of this mix of Spanish and Pueblo style architecture all coming together with some Mexican influence as well. So some things to consider if you are looking and falling in love with Pueblo style architecture to consider that are kind of negatives. First of all, flat roof concerns. Some people, especially up north, northern New Mexico, think Angel Fire, Chama, Taos. If a lot of snow, I think a lot of people, especially from the East Coast with high-pitched roof materials, get concerned about heavy snow packed on a flat roof. Also with a flat roof, you don't have that buffer of the attic in between. And of course you have the plenum where the ductwork will run through in newer construction. But in older construction, older adobe homes with flat roofs and vigas and latillas, you don't see a roof leak until it's coming into your living space and on the wood beams above you, the tongue and groove, the vigas and latillas. So it just makes it a little bit harder to detect and repair a roof leak, and that means that you're having to replace well-crafted wood beams, and the craftsmanship and the cost of that is more expensive. Another one that I just mentioned is ducting. We see this a lot in Santa Fe, but here in Albuquerque as well with older homes. They weren't built with ducting throughout the house. Had in-floor radiant heat maybe and evaporative cooling coming from one spot of the house, or maybe you didn't have any cooling at all. And so to put in refrigerated air conditioning means that you're adding in ducting, or you're needing to do a mini split system, which a lot of people love because you can control each room. If you like to sleep a little bit cooler than you like the living room, just remote control your room to be colder. You can set it on a timer, and it just gives you a lot of flexibility in your living condition. But the putting in mini splits in my experience has been more expensive than a ducting system. Otherwise, you're putting the ducting on the roof and you're losing some energy efficiency with those ducts up there, okay? Another thing that people have commented on, buyers have commented on in terms of a resale perspective is that it is darker. Again, with interior design trends, I'm seeing people move away from the totally open floor plan to wanting dedicated rooms that you can still see into the next room, and Pueblo architecture does that actually really well. But it can lean a little bit darker with the materials, with the red flooring, with the darker plaster walls, with in some of the older properties, smaller windows. And so the contemporary Pueblo style homes with the huge windows and maybe the concrete floors or the oak flooring adds in that light that people look for nowadays. So it'll be interesting to see where that lands over the next few years between the dark of the typical Pueblo style architecture, the moodiness, and the contemporary Pueblo where things open up a little bit and things are a little bit brighter and airy. Another thing with plaster walls, Venetian plaster, clay plaster, sometimes limestone, although we don't see that very much, or lime wash, I should say. Repairing, like if you hang your TV on the wall, if you hang art on the wall, if you do have a roof leak that comes down into the plaster walls, repairing plaster is more expensive than drywall. It is a high crafted finish that takes a lot of labor and man hours. And as we know nowadays, labor, man hours is a lot more expensive than materials in a lot of cases. So something to keep in mind, it's just gonna be a little bit more expensive to maintain those plaster walls. And then one thing that is maybe a little more silly nowadays, it's not as effective, but adobe walls, the thickness of those walls can hurt your cell service in the home. I've had friends and clients own adobe homes and they have to step outside the house to take a phone call. And I don't see that as much nowadays with the way that it seems like the world is covered in cell service and there's fiber and all these options to connect your phone to the internet in your house. So I don't see that being as much of a concern nowadays, but something to consider. Now, those are more the cons to think about, but I want to make you aware of getting into situations where you're into an inauthentic or a copy of an adobe. And that's not to say that these are bad, but authenticity in real estate, in home buying, in design and architecture, becoming the forefront of what is desired for people. You can see, or you can start to feel whether a home is a true Pueblo style with real craftsmanship just by looking at the beams. A lot of times people nowadays are using foam or faux beams where they have just like a square, almost wood-looking material go around just foam that's through the middle. And you can kind of just, if you spend a couple minutes looking at that, or even if you during your inspection phase, get on a ladder and just knock on it a little bit, you can tell the difference between real wood and fake. And it drives me crazy seeing fake wood. Another thing is seeing drywall, specifically orange peel or some of the textures that were used in the 90s with like boob lights and just lower end non-tin fixtures or inauthentic, not well made, not handmade. And I think that's the thing about Pueblo style that people really, really love is handmade, authentic craftsmanship. That's what really defines it. And so if you're walking through a home and it seems like maybe it's not at the price that it should be, it's somehow seems like a good deal, and you're starting to notice some of the inauthenticity, that's when, just from a perspective of resale value down the road and your enjoyment in having an authentic adobe home, you may not consider. Now, if you're looking at a $400,000 townhouse off a tramway in Albuquerque, those finishes are much more likely. And so, just keep in mind in your budget, to get these finishes, to get the floor plan in a really good location that has that true craftsmanship, we're talking a lot of money here, over $1 million in a lot of cases. And so that just kind of comes with the territory of having that true authentic craftsmanship, that true bullnose stucco, the kiva fireplaces, the warmth of a Pueblo style home that we all fall in love with. Can cost in some cases, and of course that's location dependent, but hopefully that covers everything. Pueblo style architecture, Pueblo style homes here in Santa Fe and Albuquerque, New Mexico. I hope it gives you a picture and maybe some inspiration and what to look for if you are going down the path of buying a Pueblo style home. In the future, we'll talk about territorial style. We'll talk about northern New Mexican style and some other things to look for and see in New Mexican architecture. So we'll see you on the next video. Take care.